In the small choked under hive of Ebonreach, Hierite Sealer's Blackwood hunched over his workbench, surrounded by a maze of pipes and whirring dynamos. His servo limbs, crafted from precision-engineered brass and steel, moved with a fluidity that belied their mechanical nature. As he worked on a new design for an EMP grenade, his gaze wandered to the small, intricately carved box in front of him. It was a relic, unearthed from the ignition scar itself, the psychic rift where technology had faltered and powers surged. The box's non-Euclidean sigils pulsed with an otherworldly hum that whispered forgotten prophecies into Sealer's dreams. He had found it weeks ago, but only now did he dare to open it. As his fingers touched the box, a shiver ran down his spine. The sigils began to warp the gears in his servo limbs, causing them to jam and stutter. Sealers cursed under his breath as he worked to disentangle the mechanical chaos. "What sorcery is this?" he muttered, his eyes scanning the box's surface for hidden mechanisms or clues. The sigils pulsed brighter, as if sensing his frustration. Sealers felt a creeping sense of dread as he realized the artifact wasn't just a tool. It was alive, hungry for the minds of those who dared to tinker with it. He knew he had to destroy it. The Vortex Dynamics Enforcers would be closing in soon, and he couldn't risk having his workbench or his mind compromised by this thing. Sealers hesitated, his hand hovering over a nearby hammer. But as he looked at the box, something shifted within him. A spark of curiosity ignited, fueled by the whispered prophecies and the hum of the sigils. What secrets lay hidden within? What powers could be unlocked? Sealer's fingers closed around the hammer, but instead of bringing it down on the box, he felt his hand move toward a nearby workbench. He began to assemble a new device, one that would let him harness the power of the relic. As the night wore on, Sealers worked tirelessly, fueled by his growing obsession with the artifact. His servo limbs moved with increased precision, driven by the pulsing sigils and the whispers in his mind. The Undead Hive's clockwork heartbeat grew louder, punctuated by the screams of those who had crossed the Vortex Dynamics Enforcers. Sealers barely noticed, lost as he was in the world of brass gears and ether-spun threads that lay within the relic's core. But with each passing moment, his grip on reality began to slip. The sigils pulsed brighter, as if feeding off his growing madness. Sealers' thoughts became disjointed, fragmented visions of forgotten technologies and eldritch powers swirled through his mind like a maelstrom. When the Vortex Dynamics Enforcers arrived at his workshop, they found Sealers catatonic on the floor, surrounded by half-assembled devices and scattered blueprints. The relic sat open on a nearby workbench, its sigils pulsing with an otherworldly energy that seemed to be drawing the very life force out of the air. "Get it," one enforcer growled, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of the Gearite's handiwork. As they approached the relic, Sealers stirred, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is alive." The enforcers exchanged uneasy glances. They knew the risks of dealing with psionic artifacts. The toll was real, and few survived its touch unscathed. But as they reached for the relic, Sealers' servo limbs twitched, driven by a newfound purpose. He grasped the artifact, feeling its energy course through his veins like liquid fire. The enforcers froze, unsure what to do next. Sealers stood up, his eyes blazing with an otherworldly intensity as he held the relic aloft. "I will not destroy it," he declared, his voice echoing off the Undead Hive's walls. "I will let it forge me into something beyond human." As the enforcers watched in horror, Sealers disappeared into the depths of the ignition scar, leaving behind a trail of twisted machinery and whispered prophecies that seemed to hold a terrible truth. The artifact had claimed another victim, one who would be remade in its image, driven by an insatiable hunger for knowledge and power. The Undead Hive's clockwork heartbeat grew louder still, as the echoes of Sealers' madness reverberated through the tunnels, warning those who dared to listen some secrets were better left forgotten. In the darkness of the Undead Hive, a new legend was born, one that would be whispered in hushed tones for generations to come. The Gearite had become something more, a vessel for an eldritch power that defied comprehension, forged from the very essence of the ignition scar itself. And as the relic's sigils pulsed brighter still, its presence spreading like a stain through the Underhive's machinery. One truth became clear: Sealer's Blackwood was no longer human. He had become something new, a creature of brass and steel, driven by an insatiable hunger for knowledge and power that would stop at nothing to reshape the world in its image. The age of the relic's influence had begun. An era of darkness and madness, where the very fabric of reality was twisted and distorted by the whispers of forgotten prophecies. The Underhive trembled with fear as it realized Sealer's Blackwood was not just a Gearite. He was the harbinger of a new world order, forged from the very essence of the ignition scar itself. And in the shadows, the relic's sigils pulsed brighter still, whispering secrets to those who dared to listen, drawing them into its realm with an otherworldly allure that seemed impossible to resist.